Catholic Church elects a new pope. Bill Stanskovich of the Indiana Youth Institute speaks to youth educators at Southridge High School. And in sports, Kurt Gooksell previews Purdue basketball's opening game of the Big Ten tournament. Those stories and much more are coming up next on 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths, wishing you a happy early St. Patrick's Day. In the news, white smoke filled the air outside the Sistine Chapel in Rome yesterday, signaling the election of a new pope. Catholic cardinals elected Jorge Mario Bergoglio as the church's new leader. Bergoglio, the longtime Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Argentina, will be known as Pope Francis I. Father Bagelin, pastor at Holy Family Catholic Church, was in Rome during the Pope's selection and recalls being at a restaurant for an opera at the time that the Pope's election was announced.
All of them got excited. We were in the restaurant during a kind of an opera, dinner opera, and they stopped the opera for a moment and said, "Hey, the Pope, habemus Papam, we have a Pope." And we sang "Viva la Papa." So it was a neat experience.
Bagelin says he's excited about the selection of Francis I, but he also says there is a bit of a challenge lying ahead for the new Pope.
I think to evangelize Catholics, to help people understand and appreciate the Catholic faith, that's going to be the big job. Help people understand who we are and what we're about and what we stand for. That's the challenge. And, we're a world church with many different cultures, so how Americans think about how Germans think, how South Americans think, we all have a different way of looking at life.
The 76-year-old Francis becomes the first pope from South America and the first to come from outside Europe in more than a millennium. Indiana Youth Institute CEO Bill Stanskovich spoke yesterday at Southridge High School. His topic, leadership. WJTS's Peter Marshall has more.
Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said, because it is there. Well, space is there, and we're going to climb it. And the moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for knowledge and peace are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. Thank you.
That is a clip used among many in yesterday's presentation at Southridge High School from Indiana Youth Institute CEO Bill Stanskovich to help illustrate points on leadership. The Indiana Youth Institute is a statewide nonprofit that serves educators and youth groups to help fundraise and promote skills and services to work with kids and communicate with parents. Crisis Connection works with the IYI about 3 times a year on these meetings called Youth Workers Cafes, with each luncheon being a new subject of focus. Yesterday's subject was leadership. And Bill Stanskovich provided insight on the message that the Indiana Youth Institute helps to promote.
These are incredible folks who are working so hard on behalf of children in schools and youth organizations and youth ministries, other nonprofits. And the first message is one of encouragement that what they're doing well. And yet, how can they take their efforts to the next level? So based on the work of Jim Covey from Good to Great and Great by Choice and using some fun movie clips, we hope to give them some good information to further strengthen their efforts, because when they do, it'll be the kids who benefit the most.
Joan Knies with Crisis Connection spoke with us on the goal of these meetings.
We have a lot going in our local community, and we want to make sure that people know that and can share with each other on an informal basis. IYI is nice enough to provide the food, so that's always nice to have the free lunch with it, and then to have a learning point with it, to be able to take something that we can use and apply to our organization's mission. Today we were lucky enough to have the CEO of IYI come and talk about the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. He used movie clips to illustrate some points about leadership and that type of thing. And we were so blessed to have, maybe 75 people here from all different walks of life, youth workers, school, business world. So we're really happy to have had this event.
Assistant Superintendent Chad Chink, who helped bring the meeting to Southridge, discussed the importance of the program.
That their mission is to help those who help youth, and certainly having these youth worker cafes not only is a chance to network, but also a chance to hear a lot of good presentation and presenters coming in. So Bill Stanskovich Kevich and the XO for the Indiana Youth Institute and his talk on going from good to great in leadership capacity. That's just another example of one of those Youth Worker Cafe events that we can take a lot from. I certainly think the networking component is wonderful, and I think that if we can bring a guest to these and we can then let that go into our organizations and become a building capacity for leadership and for growth, I think that's certainly the takeaway, and that's the intent, I think.
One of the final points made at the meeting, picking a team that is vital to success sometimes means picking someone who speaks their mind, even if it is the opposite of yours. And when you have that team, it's time to make music. For 18 WJTS TV, I'm Peter Marshall.
In other news, the Miss Shamrock Queen pageant was held last night at Ireland Elementary School. 20-year-old Ashton Nycombe of Ireland, a current student at Morehead State University, was selected as this year's Miss Shamrock. First runner-up and the inaugural winner of the People's Choice Award was 18-year-old Shelby Hope of Huntingburg. 18-year-old Gabby Skaggs of Ireland was the second runner-up in the competition. She, along with 18-year-old Kendra Egler of Ireland, were named co-Miss Congeniality. 18-year-old Rachel Canese of Ireland was named Most Photogenic. A total of 7 contestants took part in this year's pageant. The St. Patrick's Day celebration in Ireland begins tomorrow and will continue through Sunday. Indiana 8th District Congressman Larry Bucshon has an interesting proposal to force a budget from President Obama: suspend his pay. Bucshon's proposal, introduced in Congress Tuesday night, would have the president's pay placed in escrow from the day that his budget outline is due until the day that the budget is submitted. The bill, titled President's Salary Suspended Unless Budget Measure is on Time, or SUBMIT Act, wouldn't apply to the first year of a president's first term. The bill already has the co-support of several fellow Republican representatives. Obama has failed to submit his federal budget on time the last 3 years and 4 of the last 5 overall. The deadline for a budget is the first Monday in February as stipulated in the Budget and Accounting Act passed in 1921. Bucshon, who opened a 4th Southwestern Indiana office in DuBois County last week, voted for a bill that passed earlier this year that would suspend Congress's pay if a budget is not passed by April 15th. The U.S. House and Senate are expected to pass their plans for a new budget as early as next week. Indiana lawmakers are advancing a bill that would make it illegal to possess or deal look-alike synthetic drugs similar to those known as bath salts and other nicknames. The House Criminal Code Committee voted unanimously Wednesday to approve a bill that would also give state agencies more power to suspend the licenses of businesses caught selling those drugs. Supporters of the bill say the look-alike provision is needed because drug makers have simply made changes to the drug compounds to get around current laws that are based on specific chemical makeups. Other provisions would expand the ability of prosecutors to file charges against those driving under the influence of synthetic drugs. The bill, which was approved by the Senate last month, now goes to the full House for consideration. The Senate Appropriations Committee is examining the state of higher education funding as it continues Indiana's budget deliberations. The panel planned to meet this morning to review state aid to colleges and universities. Funding was slashed during and after the recession. Governor Mike Pence included a 1% increase in higher education spending in his January budget. The House upped that amount to a 3.5% annual spending increase in the budget that it approved. University leaders and lawmakers have sparred in recent years over tuition increases that were spurred by state budget cuts. Former Governor Mitch Daniels recently announced that he would freeze student tuition at Purdue University, where he is now president. Coming up after the break, your local forecast, followed by sports with Kurt Guxell and Inform featuring the Southern Indiana Leathernecks. That's next here on 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.